has overcome. Mercy triumphed when the third day dawned. Darkness was denied when the stone was gone. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, yeah.
Hey student fam, welcome to week 3 of On the Couch. We know you're spending a lot of time on the couch because it's summer and school's out, and because a lot of our favorite places like Waterworld and movie theaters are still closed. I mean, is it really summer if you haven't spent at least one whole day on the couch binging your new favorite show? We didn't think so. Now, the best series and movies of all time always tell a great story. A story about love, or about life, or about friendship. And the really, really good ones have a way of showing us a different world or making up a new world that we get lost in. We get attached to the characters, we ship our favorite romances, we cry when the hero sacrifices themselves, and we start following the actors who play our favorite people on Instagram, hoping to see more of the world we were transported to. Or maybe it's just me who does that. On the Couch is about taking some of our favorite shows and movies on Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus, and looking for what they say is true. True about how high school works, or how friendship works, or just about how life works, and then seeing if it's different or if it's in line with what God says is true about all of those things.
One episode into Outerbanks, pretty good show. I'm gonna keep watching. 3 episodes into Outerbanks. I wish I was at the beach. I like the characters. So 1 season into Outerbanks. I haven't taken my backpack off in 5 days, and I'm thinking about getting a boat.
This week, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about Outerbanks. I'm completely obsessed with it. Love everything about it. I love Sarah so much. Obsessed with her, not in like a Topper way.
Okay, good, because Topper is like a little extra.
He's
too much.
He's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
But I love Sarah because she just goes for what she wants, and she doesn't care about what other people might think about it or repercussions from that. She just goes for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character is, I love JJ.
Oh, JJ.
I love him so much. I know he's like not the main guy, and I know like we're supposed to love John B, but I love JJ because he's also the funniest. I feel like he's the wildest, and he always has the funniest lines.
If you haven't seen Outer Banks, then this might be a little bit of a spoiler alert for you. But at the same time, it probably won't be that much of a spoiler alert because it takes so many wild twists and turns. But Outer Banks is about this group of teenagers called Pogues. And the show starts off with they're just trying to find out what happened to John B's dad. And John B's like the ringleader of this group. But then it morphs into this epic treasure hunt full of Kook versus Pogue conflict.
So maybe for those of us who haven't seen the show, who are the Pogues and then who are the Kooks? Like, what are these two groups of people?
Yeah, well, depending on where you live on the island, your life could look totally different. John B explains in the first episode that the Outer Banks are a place where you either have 2 jobs or 2 houses. And the Pogues are the people who more likely have 2 jobs or work a bunch of odd jobs, and they actually get their name after the pogie fish, which is really interesting because the pogie fish is considered like the bottom of the food chain fish, the throwaway fish, kind of like the anawim.
Yeah.
And if you've been around Flatirons for a little bit, you've heard Jim talk about the anawim. And anawim is this Hebrew word from the Old Testament that's used to describe people who are more like low in status or poor, people who are disposable, the throwaway people. And then you have the Kooks, where they're more wealthy and they have all this power and they have more of a successful life, a more fancy life with their big yachts and their country club memberships and their 2 houses.
It's a classic story of the haves versus the have-nots. And Outer Banks just makes it really, really clear. If you're born a Pogue, then you're always going to have a Pogue life. Your future looks a certain way because of the family you were born into, or the side of the island you come from, or how much money your parents have. And it's the same for the Kooks. They have a Kook life. There's a path set out for them, and it means Ivy League colleges and scholarships, and they'll only have certain jobs with these kinds of people. The entire show is built on this idea that your present determines your potential. Your present circumstances kind of dictates what the rest of your life will look like. So even if you haven't seen Outer Banks, maybe you've felt this before. The world around you has made you believe that because your family doesn't have a lot of money, maybe you'll never amount to anything. Or maybe you feel like your mistakes and your suspension record and the kinds of mistakes that you've made mean that you won't ever have a chance at a fresh start. Or maybe over time you've picked up on these really small and really big hints from people. Maybe it's your teachers or your coaches or your friends that say your potential looks like this because of your appearance or your abilities or your performance. This isn't to say that there aren't very real boundaries and roadblocks for certain groups of people. Maybe some of you have experienced your potential being defined based on your gender or the color of your skin or your sexual orientation, where others have not. I think many of us have accepted it as the truth, that this is just the way life works, and it'll always be this way. And it's probably why the show hooked us, because Outer Banks isn't so much about a treasure hunt and crazy boat chases and parties on the beach, but it's about this group of Pogues that we are hoping defy all the Pogue odds and find this treasure so that they can buy their way out of these Pogue circumstances.
Take Pope, for example. He's one of the Pogues, and he wants something different than this Pogue life. He wants something different than just his dad's seafood store. And he's got this big scholarship on the line. And this scholarship is his ticket out of the banks. And then there's Sarah, and she's the complete opposite of Pope. She's like the queen bee of the Kooks. And the Pogues view her as this princess, untouchable, because she comes from a really wealthy family. But everything takes a turn for Sarah when she has this wild and adventurous day with John B. And it's then that she realizes she wants this fun, free, and laid-back lifestyle that the Pogues have. And she realizes that maybe she wants more than the life so far that she is destined to live. She has her own dreams and her own hopes that just don't fit into this kook box. She wants something different, something more. And we really get to see her heart for the Pogues when she says, can we just drop this whole Kooks versus Pogues thing? And it's funny to me that Sarah really wants this Pogue life, while the Pogues are trying to do everything and anything for something different, to get out of the Pogue life. And then they find this treasure, and they truly believe that their only way out of this life, to reach somewhere different, to change, is this treasure. I get that, and we do it too. We might not have hundreds of gold bars left behind by the sole survivor of a shipwreck, but maybe it's popularity, or maybe it's outperforming on the field or in the classroom or on the stage that is our way of buying a different future. But is it true? And does it work? What truly changes our potential and changes the trajectory of our future?
Peter, like our Outer Banks crew, is a fisherman. And so fishing wasn't just his hobby or something he liked to do for fun, but this was his job. This was how Peter survived. And it was really hard work. It was long days out in the sun, dropping these huge heavy nets and having to pull them back in and then clean them out day after day after day. Fishing is not a glamorous gig. And after doing some more digging on Peter, I realized that he didn't necessarily choose this job. And so if you would have asked Peter, like at his 8th grade promotion, what do you want to be when you grow up, Peter? I don't think he would have said, a fisherman. I mean, maybe he would have, but it's more likely he had that job because it was a family business. So a lot like the kids from Outer Banks, it's generational. Peter's father was a fisherman, and his grandfather and his great-grandfather were fishermen. So this was something that he was born into. It was likely for Jewish boys Peter's age, you either took over the family business, or if your family was wealthy and successful, you could go to school and become a rabbi. But clearly that didn't happen for Peter.
So what you're saying is Peter's life pretty much has looked the same every day since he was a little kid. His life has pretty much been spelled out for him. Like, he'll be working every day until he's too old to work. So he's pretty much living this Pogue life at the time.
Yes, exactly. Until he meets Jesus. So Jesus sees Peter and his brother. They've just called it a night after fishing all night and not getting anything. And Jesus actually winds up getting into their boat with them. And so they go out onto the sea and they have this whole interaction. And it's kind of strange because Jesus tells them to fish during the time of day that you're not supposed to fish, and to go to the part of the water where you're also not supposed to fish. And so this whole thing is really strange that Jesus is giving them these really bizarre instructions.
Right, and Peter's pretty skeptical at this point. Like, he doesn't really know if he believes the rumors he's heard about Jesus or that Jesus really is who he says he is. But then the fish begin to flood the net and the boat begins to sink. And it's in this moment that Peter realizes that Jesus can make these seemingly impossible things happen, and that maybe he really is who he says he is. And then Jesus says something to Peter about his potential. Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed him. In this moment, Jesus is offering Peter a change in direction, a different future. He goes, "Come follow me and do life with me, and I'll teach you how to be a different kind of fisherman. I will show you how to lead people to me, and you will show them and teach them about what it looks like to follow Jesus."
Jesus gives Peter his shot at being someone and something more than his family and his circumstances and the world told him was possible for someone like him. The truth we see in Peter's story is that Jesus determines your potential. It's Jesus who determines our potential, not our circumstances, not our past, not our mistakes, not our wealth or our performance or our athleticism or our grades, only Jesus. And Jesus has the power to change what our future looks like, to change the trajectory that our life is headed in, despite all of those things. Jesus changed Peter's potential that day. And Peter didn't wind up richer or more powerful or more successful by the world's standards, but his life was given new meaning. It's because Peter chose a new direction that day after a bad night of fishing that he was able to influence thousands and thousands of lives. He influenced people to discover who Jesus was, to follow him, and to step into this new and different life. It's because of Peter saying yes to following Jesus that we actually have church now the way we do. So like many of us, Peter bought the lie that the circumstances he was born into meant that he was confined to a monotonous, meaningless life. And it's just not true. There's a way that this really ancient letter called Ephesians says it. It puts it like this: it's in Christ that we find out who we are and what we are living for. Long before we first heard of Christ and got our hopes up, he had his eye on us. He had designs on us for glorious living, part of the overall purpose he is working out in everything and everyone. It's in Jesus that we find out who we're living for and what we're living for. It's in Jesus that we find our potential and a different, better life than the one we're living or the one we feel like we were born into. I love the way that the verse puts it, that before we even heard of Jesus, before we even knew who he was or what he is about, he had his eye on us, that he already knows our potential, that he has ideas and plans for glorious living, and that we get to take part in it.
What are you depending on to secure your future? What has the world told you determines your future? Is it your family or your past or your wealth or social status? Is it the way you look? Maybe you have been told that people that look like you or have your learning disability don't get the same opportunities or don't get the same job offers. When I was in high school, I felt a lot of pressure around college because no one in my immediate family had ever gone to college before. My family thought that if I went, that I would have a better opportunity at getting a better career, and that if I didn't go, I wouldn't get the same opportunities or I wouldn't make as much money in my adult life. And not only was there a lot of pressure around just going to college, also there was a lot of pressure around which college do I go to? There are so many options, and I felt like the world around me was saying that if I didn't go to college, then I wouldn't have a meaningful life. And I feel like the world still says that if you don't go to college, you won't have a successful life. Or if you choose this university over this one, then you won't have as many opportunities in your future. Going to college is important, and you can have so many great experiences and make lifelong friends there. But whether or not I wanted to go to college at the time, my future and my purpose isn't determined by that. My life looks different because I follow Jesus, and he's given my life meaning and potential and purpose, despite what the world's expectations say and despite my circumstances.
What has the world told you about your potential? About what's possible for someone who looks like you, with your family and with your past? Is it that you need to land that audition as your ticket to a more meaningful future? Is it that you need to outperform on the field, especially when the scouts are there? Is it getting the best grades and the best test scores and the best scholarship? Is that your ticket out? Is it that you've been told you need to change your appearance so that you look more like people around you? Is it that you've been told that you will have to work harder than everyone else around you so that you can have a different, more meaningful life? At the end of the day, whether you get that audition or that role, it's Jesus who determines your potential. Whether or not the scouts come to your big game and put you on the team, it's Jesus who determines your potential. Whether or not you get that scholarship, it's Jesus who determines your potential. Whether you have had to face more challenges and more roadblocks based on what you look like, Jesus determines your potential.
So what is that one thing for you? For the Pogues, this treasure was their one chance at something different. What have you been counting on to buy you or get you a different, more meaningful future? What has the world told you about your potential? And what has the world told you about whether or not that's possible for you? And how does Jesus change that or get you closer to that?
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, oh I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you That is who you are. That is who